Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You are part of the 300 people worldwide who have registered to watch this webcast, powered by YOL Development and System Plus Consulting. This webcast is entitled The Battlefield of the Fan-Out Packaging. My name is David Jordan, and I am Global Sales Support and Coordination Manager for YOL Development. Before we get started with the webcast, let me give you some basic information on this online event. You have the possibility during all the webcasts to submit questions. To do so, you simply have to use the box at the bottom of the screen labeled Ask a Question. We will answer as many questions as time permits today, and for remaining questions, we will follow up with you via email. Concerning the materials, please note that the presentations are already available and downloadable in the resources section of the platform. Please note that within 24 hours, you will receive an email with a link to the recorded webcast session. So let's start the webcast with Xavier Xu, Technology and Market Analyst, Package Assembly and Substrate. Xavier is from the Semiconductor and Software Division of YOL Development. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, David. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webcast. I'm Xavier from YOL Development. I'll be presenting to you the battlefield of fan-out packaging today. And the presentation outline of this webcast is primarily focused on the fan-out packaging battlefield landscape. I will touch on the key players' activities, the applications, market forecast, with different level of granularity breakdown, and the overall panel level penetration in the fan-out market. I'm starting with the fan-out packaging process flow to appreciate the fan-out technology value. In this example, we have used the eWLB, which is a chip first face down process. So as you can see from step 1 to step 6 is how the die is being built up eventually from tape lamination, pick and place, wafer-level molding, carrier debonding, the standard metallization interconnect processes, and finally the dicing. So you may notice the proliferation of I/O is beyond the die area size, and there is no advanced IC substrate needed in between. So these are the key characteristics of fan-out packaging. So on this slide, let me share some history of fan-out packaging and how it eventually leads to the different battles currently that we're looking at. So before 2007, in 2006, Freescale actually established its first 200mm pilot line for RCP. And PES was Freescale's first large-scale partner for RCP licensing. And also, if you look at the Infineon, they're actually the creator of eWLB, and they finally licensed it to various companies like ASE, JSAT, Nanium, and Intel was involved because there is an acquisition of Infineon's wireless operation, and hence eventually attained the fan-out packaging capability. So we look at the timeline to about in 2011, 2012, Decca has released their M series during that time with their adaptive patterning technology. So this technology helps to avoid the pick and place accuracy faced by other technology. And it is actually a cheaper face-up fan-out scheme. So if you look into more recent years, in the recent fan-out inflection, you can see there are more players and with different technology and IP. So since 2016, TSMC has actually developed integrated fan-out, well, with I would say a crystal clear strategy of combining the high-end advanced packaging technologies along with the advanced foundry nodes to step up the packaging portfolio to capture the top-class customer business. So their first entry was actually Apple A10, is an application processor for iPhone 7, which is commercialized by Apple in 2016. So this created a whole new high-end market, which we call high-density fan-out, HDFO. So as a result of that, new players are joining, coming out with different strategy and schemes. Semco and PTI have invested and developed in fan-out panel level packaging and has gone into production successfully in 2018. So that is the first milestone by fan-out panel level. And that kind of ASICs, they are also exploring into panel level. So as you can see now, how it unfolds is TSMC is now the only strong player in high-density fan-out, and we know that Semco and Samsung are trying to compete as a new player. And within the core fan-out market, you can see PTI taking the lead in panel level, and existingly, there are already various major players with wafer level. So there will be a cost-price competition within the core fan-out between wafer level and panel level packaging. So actually, TSMC's strategy was to win back the Apple business from Semco in 2015. So since 2016, they successfully won back, and since 2016 till now, TSMC has maintained the technology leadership in high-density fan-out, and currently they are even extending it further into various applications. Like they are trying to roll it out, the Info OS on substrate for high-performance devices like HPC, high-performance computing, and Info AIP, antenna and package, which has gained a lot of fan-out players' interest because fan-out has well-known capabilities in the core radar, and embedded RF chip will suffer less interference. And really, who's next? The next possible player to come into the same platform as TSMC on high-density fan-out is actually on this next slide, Semco Samsung. As you know, Semco actually has successfully commenced fan-out PLP production and supply the multi-die AP plus PMIC fan-out solution for Samsung Galaxy Watch. So they are the only candidate who is resourceful enough to contend against TSMC in high-density fan-out. And they are not hiding their desire, as you can see from the list. Although this is still considered mid-end in terms of I/O, but in terms of the package thickness and the RDL line space, it's actually the same as the Apple A11 in the mobile. And just to clarify, the AP in Apple A11 mobile is actually a high-end device with a lot more I/O, about 3 times more, as you can see at the I/O row. So in terms of the business battle, you can see these are the 3 active players that have come up with and execute their strategy. TSMC being the fan-out leader in high-density fan-out, that is the speculated end customer that they're engaged with in terms of securing the order. Semco and Samsung is a very interesting relationship here because they are within a whole group of IDM. So you can see that Semco initial customer is Samsung, but I think eventually they go through some kind of acquisition and merger. So now Semco is really part of Samsung. And PTI, being the usual conservative player, is really betting big in on panel level fan-out. So they could be the OSAT leader in fan-out packaging with this speculated end customer as listed here. So, apart from the existing application like PMIC, RF transceivers, connectivity modules, audio codec modules, and radar sensors and AP that we know of, there are actually exploration of to leverage on fan-out packaging technologies into 5G devices like RF chips and antenna. So the motivation here, as you can see from these different players, TSMC, JCET, Infineon, and IME, they are trying to go for like a substrateless package with lower thermal resistance. They're trying to make sure there's higher performance, shorter interconnects between chip and antenna, so they can have the flexibility to embed passive system in packet nature kind of devices. Overall, it's really the RF can have a better transmission. So they're coming up with different designs to make this work and explore the possibility of it. Another potential application is HPC that fan-out packaging can potentially be involved in. We know that TSMC has strong desire to use Info OS for HPC. This is well known. And you look at this, the replacement is really the interposer, where the driver now becomes the cost, followed on by the performance. So this is the fan-out market activity and forecast done. So we begin like from 2010. We know that initially it's eWLB technology driven. Then in 2016, you can see that there's high-end AP created a whole new market called high-density fan-out thanks to Apple and TSMC. And moving forward, we are expecting TSMC and Semco Samsung to have a mega entry and set up new capacity and involvement by 2020 and beyond. And also, we are also expecting a fabless end customer to finally push for mid and to high-end devices at lower cost successfully, and there will be manufacturers entering with more volumes by 2022. So this is the fan-out market breakdown into the business model. As you can see, the very initial phase in 2015, the core fan-out market mainly consists of standard devices and primarily just the OSAT involvement. Then in 2017, TSMC big entry resulted in about 3 times growth in the fan-out market value by 2017, and high-density fan-out is definitely created, and OSAT market share is reduced. And we look at the 2019 with a CAGR growth of 23%. Semco and Samsung has penetrated with core fan-out, as we know in the Samsung Galaxy Watch. So Semco and Samsung is expected to roll out even more applications by fan-out. So, moving forward to 2024, based on what we have observed and gathered, we know that Samsung will continue to battle with TSMC in high-density fan-out. They will generate a new value in core fan-out first as a stepping stone. And OSAT, we've seen OSAT, they're going to compete for the new business if there's a new demand, but they will be under severe cost pressure and cost pressure because, key players like PTI has already established panel-level packaging capability with a tremendous cost reduction appeal for the fabless. In terms of the equipment and material supplier revenue outlook point of view, fan-out packaging remains strong despite there's an overcapacity risk and market uncertainty in the economy in the near term in 2018 and 2019. However, we believe packaging house will continue to invest in a timely fashion and kickstart the next generation production and roll out new fan-out applications beyond 2020. This is a breakdown of the market share by key processors. As you can see from 2018 to 2024, the biggest process gain is actually the RDL plating, because we are expecting both the core fan-out and high-density fan-out market to gain more layers of RDL per wafer pass. And you can see the biggest process loss in the market is actually the mold compound deposition, because we believe players are actually going for a thinner profile. In this slide, you can see fan-out cost evolution analysis. Here we are comparing primarily the carrier size of the fan-out processing. So, end customers are asking for lower and lower prices. Price reduction is a parameter for fan-out market growth now. And this can be achieved by reducing manufacturing costs, which can be achieved by using larger carriers. So going panel could enable cost reduction, as you can see, goes beyond to cost reduction of up to 66%. And of course, this is if the technologies are ready and the yield are higher than 95%. In this slide is the overview roadmap of the readiness of fan-out panel-level packaging production. We know that Semco PTI has entered production in 2018. ASE and DECA seems to be gearing up for panel-level packaging for, really feels better in the core fan-out market space. And they do have they do have plans and roadmap to enter high-density fan-out as well. Nepes has a panel fan-out capability line and was doing the fingerprint sensor previously. And they have already been engaged and qualified with more than 10 customers. The remaining players are interested doing R&D, but they are mainly observing the market movement in panel level packaging, not exactly ready to invest yet. This is a fan-out cost evolution, market trends based on the carrier since 2010 to 2024. So, fan-out packaging is one of the most dynamic and competitive packaging platforms with, I would say, a widely diversified supply chain. So this is a classic crossover scenario between different business models, with every player owning a different strategy, some coming with panel, some coming with wafer. And it's exactly because of this we are seeing the split path of the manufacturing between panel level and wafer level. So cost reduction and prevention of IP infringement are also the motivation to go panel level. So in 2018, we know that Semco and PTI has entered. We are expecting a withdrawal of the panel players because they are already feeling the oversupply risk, and TSMC is actually incrementally increasing their wafer level capacity. However, beyond that, we believe Semco, Deca ASC, and few China OSATs will come in and continue to invest in the panel level packaging. Presently, the volume is not big enough to justify further investment in panel production, especially when core fan-out is already experiencing underutilization. However, in the long run, the expansion of fan-out panel level is expected to increase because new players are driving a low-cost proposition into the fan-out packaging market. So as you can see from 2018 to 2024, these are the breakdown granularity between equipment and materials and wafer level versus panel level. So in conclusion, fan-out panel level is made reality thanks to Semco and PTI in 2018. And TSMC Info is really one of the stronghold in the high-end packaging portfolio, extending it beyond APE applications. The battle, the war in high-density fan-out between TSMC and Semco is really just beginning, with new and existing OEM interested to explore their APE with fan-out technologies. And within the core fan-out market, overcapacity is increasingly being felt without new demands. So the battle for existing business is going to be tough for both wafer level and panel level. And lastly, I believe the industry, as we know, is no longer overexcited about the fan-out packaging since TSMC and Apple bust. But it still remains a strong growing market because of the high potential and steady growth. So we know that key players have already been trying to adopt new fan-out solutions in their portfolio. So this is really becoming one of the popular platforms to explore and apply on new applications. So I've come to the last slide of my webcast. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Javier, for this very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Once again, feel free to ask any question with your with the Q&A button, and we'll answer some questions at the end of the webcast. Right now, we will continue with Stefan Elizabeth, expert cost analysis at System Plus Consulting, for his presentation. Stefan, it's your turn.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Stefan Elizabeth, cost engineer at System Plus Consulting, and I'm in charge of RF, sensor, and advanced packaging. And I will make a technology and cost review of fan-out packaging from automotive to consumer application. So to begin with, I will present the company. Here at System Plus, we provide reports on several devices in many application domains. In the case of fan-out, we have currently almost 10 reports on subjects like info from TSMC or fan-out panel-level packaging from Samsung. Fan-out is today a main technology that's allowed thin design, a very thin pitch matching, high-ho components, and it could be integrated in several devices with constraint like space or performance or consumption. And today, the main goal of fan-out is to provide thin and small form factor solution with higher performances at lower cost. And to provide such solution, several technologies is on the market trying to fulfill this need. So on the fan-out, we have two main technologies that can be identified. We have RCP for redistributed chip packaging that's targeting automotive radar industry for OEMs like Continental or Hella. We have also eWLB for also designed for automotive radar, but after for automotive radar and developed by Infineon. After several years, they licensed the technology to several OSATs that now are mainly targeting consumer application. And today we have seen that other players are joining the battle, mainly on the consumer segment of the application. And during this presentation, we'll go through these technologies from the automotive to the consumer. In the market, we could find several actors manufacturing fan-out packaging. In 2017, we had already in our description Infineon that was manufacturing eWLB for their own use and has licensed the technology to OSATs. And also we had Nepes that was manufacturing the RCP packaging for NXP. Now the main supply chain has a little bit changed with the entry of semiconductor giants. These two manufacturers, TSMC and Samsung, are manufacturing fan-out packaging mainly for application processor for consumer devices. One is using wafer in the fan-out process, and the other is already using panel level. Between these two, we have saw an OSAT that try to bring a new fan-out technology on the market called M-Series, which is now at wafer level, but it will certainly evolve toward panel application. Each of these technologies has its pros and its cons in terms of performance, reliability, cost, and so on. So we'll begin with automotive application. Still in 2019, we have seen chip-on-board radar systems that featured MMIC device from Infineon. Here, the choice of cob packaging is mainly linked to the antenna type. Indeed, H-pole antenna needs cavity feeding, which is already mastered by Aptiv. But for patch antenna, eWLB has been a real game changer in terms of integration. Now, it could not need a dedicated board for the MMIC support, neither wire bonding or thermal paste. In the fan-out packaging process, only EMC, solder board, and RDL polymer is needed. And after that, we have two suppliers that have shown different type of fan-out packaging that is already used in the industry. Both have shown chip-first face-up design, but different way to master the die shifting during the molding step. Infineon, which has the higher cost, required tape lamination on the carrier to handle the die, and also highly accurate pick and place step, whereas NXP took a metal frame to reduce the impact of the molding flow on the die positioning. And at the end, NXP is cheaper even if they had a feature in the molding. And NXP goes further in the industrial application, and they realized a fan-out SiP. And to do that, they chose again to add a feature in the molding, but here it's also used as an interconnected device. Indeed, to reduce the impact of the molding flow, via frame in PCB is used. This via frame enables package-on-package configuration for the device, as it interconnects the top and the bottom RDL. After that is the same process like the traditional RCP, so with 4-layer RDL realized at wafer level. Here, the innovation is the capability to integrate passives and active dies in the same device with a low-profile component. In wearable, where the Z height of a device is the main constraints, Samsung has decided to use a fan-out process for the integration of its application processor with a PMIC in the same component in POP configuration. With a thickness of around 0.2, the packaging is realized at panel level using, again, a via frame for the POP feature. But Samsung decided to add another capability to this via frame. Indeed, the via frame had a routing capability, and the packaging also has backside RGL. And these two main advantages allow
Hello, everybody. Sorry, it seems that there is a technical problem. I will try to reconnect with Stefan very rapidly. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay, good. I can continue.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and sorry.
Yeah, good. As I said, that the diaphragm has routing capabilities, and the packaging has and has also a backside RDL. And these two main advantages allow Samsung to have a matching of different type of memory on top of it. And when we compare these two device cross-section, here is the schematic representation. The advance in the technology can be seen of these two devices. You can see that Samsung has already mastered the SiP's technology for fan-out and has more features to enhance the packaging compared to NXP. And this could be seen in the price also of the package. Indeed, the cost per area is almost twice bigger for Samsung compared to NXP. But the advance in terms of performances, reliability is not negligible. Also, the target application is not quite the same. NXP is more for industrial IoT, whereas Samsung is for wearable and more precisely has been integrated in its Galaxy Watch in 2018. To continue on the consumer segments, we have seen several devices smartphone that use a fan-out, and we have been able to identify them over the year. It is a start around 2016 with Apple and Samsung. The first was featuring the technology from TSMC called Info, and the second using AMCO or stat chip pack capability to produce eWLB package. Since then, ASE and DK technology has started the production of a different fan-out that we have discovered this year in the Samsung Galaxy S10. And also, we have seen, for example, in the Fitbit Charge 3, a system-in-package configuration using the M-Series technology. More has been discovered, and the teardown is currently available on our new website, offering the complete teardown of more than 50 smartphones with the complete BOM bill of materials and the component opening pictures. And from our costing reports that we have made, we were able to produce a comparison and demonstrate the advantage of fan-out in the application processor application. Indeed, Info from TSMC and ePLP from Samsung managed to produce a very thin package with a small pitch, almost 2 times smaller than a traditional POP package. The main advantage that had Shinko in this bubble is that they had a second PCB on top of the packaging, enabled to match several memory package, and also copper core solder ball to maintain the structure. But now Samsung has bring a real game changer with its ePLP, which had also a backside RDL that allow memory matching, as Shinko made. And comparing the 3 IP packaging on the market, we could establish a comparison in terms of cost and the height between them. We can see how the industry has evolved over the year. Shinko with the molded copper embedded package was using 2 different PCB. One advanced using embedded trace route, enabling low line space. TSMC has introduced fan-out with through package via copper and a single side RDL. And Samsung has innovated with a double side RDL package with diaphragm using embedded trace route. But it results in a higher cost compared to Info technology. And finally, we have seen a recent shift in flip chip scale packaging that will probably continue over the year. Indeed, we have seen that now OEMs are looking for a solution to improve yield loss due to shipped die from dicing, and also managing dies regardless the wafer size manufacturing. And so they are looking for fan-out for sidewall protection. We have seen a first glitch several years ago with Qualcomm using eWLB from ARM-Core or StatChipPack for its audio codec. We can see that the die was about 80% of the package area, so the fan-out capability was also used to spread the board. But now, in 2019, Qualcomm has decided to shift to shift to the Deca technologies with ISE, so called the M series, and now they were able to has a die that occupied 90% of the packaging area, using a single layer of RGL. And when we compare these two technologies, we can see that eWLB has still the better cost, and also compared to traditional flip chip CSP packaging, they also have a better reliability in terms of board level reliability. But when we compare this reliability to the M series, the M series is much more better, but the cost is a little bit higher. So now we have seen that Qualcomm has shifted its technology toward M series just for the reliability and not precisely for the cost. So I have finished my presentation. It was the last one. Thank you for your attention.
Via email for the remaining one. So the first questions are for Favier. First question, Favier. Can you elaborate on the new battles in the fan-out packaging landscape?
Thank you, David. This question, I will split I'll split the answer into two market segments: core fan-out, which is the low to mid-end application, and high-density fan-out, which is a high-end application. So in core fan-out market, existing players are expected to go on the cost competition between wafer level and panel level. We know that PTI has commenced the panel level fan-out production in 2018. So within the OSATs, the players can capture market share of new application demands for mobile and automotive, which will lead the way and set new standards. And in the high-density fan-out market, high-end mobile APs and high-performance applications like HPCs, networking, they are all led by the only player currently, TSMC. So we know that Semco has started high-volume manufacturing by panel-level fan-out for the Samsung Galaxy smartwatch for Samsung Electronics. So inevitably, high-density fan-out battle stage is really set up for both the TSMC and Semco Samsung Electronics. So, consequently, you may think that we may say that high-density fan-out AP is actually a breakthrough, which is a positive advertisement for core fan-out, which is in totally different market segment. In this, from this point of view, it's actually a synergy, not a competition between these two markets. We've seen the two markets. There are key players in competition and battling for the existing and new businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Favier. One last question for you. This is a question about the adoption of the different packaging platform, like the wire bonding, flip chip, and fan-out. What is the status of the adoption?
In terms of the adoption, I would say, for example, flip chip, the I/O pads can be distributed all over the surface of the chip, not only the peripheral region, unlike wire bonding. So between wire bonding and flip chip, flip chip will have a better electrical performance with shorter path between the die and the substrate. So the absence of the wire also allow a thinner package profile. As we are seeing, for example, some memory control IC is actually moving to flip chip and numerous markets. In terms of fan-out packages, in general, when the die size scales smaller, they reduce the ball pitch to have more connection within the die surface. So this may not be either roadmap for chip performance. Hence, fan-out is adopted because the ability to proliferate the I/O. So fan-out can also integrate dies together flexibly at thinner thickness, and it also eliminates the IC substrate processing cost. So, flip chip advanced IC substrate is very well established, affordable, big volumes, supported by very large companies. Within the mobile market, high-density fan-out has so far taken up 13% of the high-end AP market share in just 3 years. So the advanced IC substrate of flip chip like Shinko and IBM manufacturers, they understood the fan-out threat, and they have already made very aggressive moves with strategic price cuts and resolution improvements technically. So that is the position of the flip chip. However, regardless, there is a limitation. We do have, for very large die SoC, fan-out on substrate, for example, will be an interesting alternative, which is an alternative to 2.5D interposers. In this case, both the high-density fan-out and flip chip can go as is without competition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier. Now, I also got some questions for Stefan and Elizabeth. First question, Stefan. What are the main innovations in the M series?
Okay. That's a good question. Thank you, David. I would say that the main difficulties for fan-out packaging manufacturer was the molding step handling. Because of here it's the chip first process. The die is deposited, is placed on the carrier. So when the molding is flowing, the die could shift. And here, with the DECA has developed a technology that called adaptive patterning and adaptive routing that is enabled to measure the shifting of the die precisely and adapt the mask, the RDL masking, to produce a very good RDL on top of the die. And also, they also use adaptive routing technique that consists in just realize the RDL partially and complete the RDL with the patterning of the RDL with laser direct imaging techniques. And these two combined is the two main advantage, two main innovation. And after that, also as DECA used the molding to cover all the dies, they improve the reliability by just having the copper pillar as a contact between the RDL and the die. And there is nothing more, no polymer compared to, like for TSMC or Samsung processing.
Thanks. Second question. Stefan, what is your opinion about the future of flip chip CSP? In
this area, I think, like Javier, that we will see more and more fan-out application in this field. Yeah, as I mentioned before, the reliability for these components are critical. And as we have seen with Qualcomm, there's a shift totally to M series. I think we'll see more and more this type of packaging in the future, replacing the traditional flip chip CSP.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. Thank you also, Xavier, for your participation. The webcast is ending now. You will soon receive the link to the recorded session. And also feel free to share the presentation to whom will benefit from our data and analysis. And finally, please let me remind you that you can find all our market research on our website, i-micronews.com. And do not hesitate to contact us if you have additional question. You can find appropriate contact on the last slide of the presentation. Thank you all for joining us today and participate to your development and System Plus webcast. Have all a great day. Thank you.